The first time Commander Eli Barrett stepped foot on Crythean Prime, he thought he'd walked into a museum. Cold, pristine, and painfully quiet. Towering obelisks of white stone reached into an almost colorless sky. The buildings were immaculate, symmetrical, and lifeless. There were no murals, no laughter, not even birds. It felt like a world caught between sleep and death. A tall Crytheari escort glided beside him, skin a faint violet, eyes silver and expressionless. Her name was Valnari, and she hadn't spoken a single word since he arrived. She didn't need to. Crytheari were telepathic. Emotions, though, were another matter. They didn't have them. Or rather, they had banned them. Emotion is chaos, his diplomatic guide had explained aboard the Terran envoy ship before his descent. They underwent a social revolution 1,000 years ago. Abolished grief, anger, joy, anything that disturbs collective function. Even their queen, Elentha, is required to undergo regular neural purification. Eli had scoffed at the term. So she's a machine with a crown? No, but close. He had been chosen for this mission precisely because he was unpredictable. He'd scored high on psychological volatility indexes. He laughed during funerals, cried during movies, and once convinced a pirate leader to surrender by comparing his tactics to an opera tragedy. Earth's diplomatic corps had called him their chaotic genius and sent him to the most emotionally sterile society in the galaxy. Watch your tone, his captain had warned. Crytheari culture is rigid. They don't understand sarcasm, metaphors, or human nuance. Keep your emotions in check. Of course, that was exactly why Eli wasn't going to. Now, standing before the glistening palace steps, Eli felt the weight of hundreds of silver eyes on him. The queen would meet him shortly. Around him, Crytheari nobles moved with perfect coordination, like synchronized dancers in slow motion. No sound, no smiles, no color. He whispered under his breath, "I'm gonna lose my damn mind here." A mental voice, clear, serene, entered his mind. Asterisk, do not resist the link. We communicate efficiently this way. Asterisk. It was Valnari. I prefer talking, he replied aloud. Vocalizations are obsolete. Yeah, well, so are corsets and powdered wigs, but people still wear them. She blinked slowly, trying to decode his meaning. Eli smirked. Step 1. Confuse the emotionless aliens. Inside the palace, crystalline hallways glittered like frozen waterfalls. And there, seated atop a high throne carved from something resembling translucent ivory, was Queen Elentha. She was breathtaking. 7 feet tall, draped in robes of shifting metallic threads, her silver eyes framed by ridged, crown-like bone structures. Her expression was flawless in its neutrality. Eli bowed. Your Majesty, I bring greetings from Earth and a gift. Her voice, cold, practiced, rang through his mind. Asterisk, a gift is unnecessary. We require only data. Asterisk. Well, then this should throw your neural circuits for a loop. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small black box. He pressed a button. Music filled the room. A violin, mournful and slow. A melody aching with longing. The entire room froze. Valnari looked horrified. Queen Elentha raised one elegant hand. The music stopped. What was that? Beethoven. Earth composer. Human emotion, distilled into sound. It was destabilizing. Exactly. He watched her. Her fingers trembled imperceptibly before stilling. The nobles whispered silently to one another, their telepathy forming a buzzing cloud of anxiety around him. Why would you bring such disruption into our domain? Because you've forgotten how to feel, Eli said. And you're dying because of it. Asterisk false. We thrive, asterisk. No, you function. Function isn't thriving. He stepped closer. Your people haven't colonized a new world in centuries. Your population is declining. Your art is algorithmic. You call it peace, but it's stagnation. The queen stared at him. Then she rose. Asterisk, you have insulted our ways. Leave, human, asterisk. I can't. He smiled. I haven't shown you the second gift. He pulled out an old photograph. A child with chocolate smeared on his cheeks, laughing. A dog licking his face. A birthday cake in the background. What is this sensation? That's nostalgia. It's messy and warm and beautiful. And I think deep down you remember it. There was a long silence. Then, asterisk Valnari, escort the human to the guest wing. He will remain under observation, asterisk. As they walked away, Valnari whispered aloud, for the first time. You are dangerous. I'm human, he replied. That's kinda our thing. That night, As he lay in the crystalline guest chamber, Eli replayed the encounter. He hadn't been vaporized. That was a win. More importantly, he saw it. A flicker. The queen's hand trembled when she heard Beethoven. That wasn't malfunction. That was memory. Somewhere deep in her, buried beneath a millennium of conditioning, was the ghost of a tear. He had to find it, wake it up. If he could get a single tear from the queen of the Crytheari, he could wake up an entire civilization. And maybe, just maybe, teach them what it means to be truly alive. Tomorrow, he'd play them something even riskier, jazz. The next morning, the sun rose over Crythean Prime like a spotlight through frosted glass. The city still shimmered with emotionless precision, but something had changed. The corridors felt heavier, watched. Eli dressed slowly, choosing a red shirt deliberately. One splash of defiance in a world without color. A soft chime echoed. Valnari entered without knocking. The queen has summoned you to the temple of reflection. Sounds cozy. He stretched. Will there be coffee? She didn't reply, but her left brow twitched. Slightly. Progress. The temple was unlike the palace, domed, ancient, etched with deep grooves that hummed faintly when Eli passed. Inside, light filtered through prismatic panels, casting rainbow shafts across the floor. For a place built by people who feared emotions, it was absurdly beautiful. Queen Elentha waited in the center. Sit, human. He did. She produced a thin disk and pressed it to her temple. The air shimmered. Suddenly, he saw her memory. Not a projection, he was inside it. A younger Elentha, maybe 13, stood in a lush garden. Crytheari children around her laughed. Real laughter. They ran, played, chased glowing insects. Elentha watched them from a bench, her eyes curious. Then she turned and saw a flower. It bloomed red. Not artificial red. Wild, chaotic, defiant. She reached to touch it. The memory shattered. Back in the temple, Eli sucked in breath. You were a child. You felt wonder. She didn't answer. You remember, he pressed. Your people didn't start emotionless. They were taught to be. Conditioned. She paced, fingers laced behind her back. It was necessary. Emotion tore our species apart. Wars. Famines. Collapse. We chose order over chaos. But you lost something sacred. We survived. So do stones. That doesn't make it living. She turned sharply. Enough. I agreed to this demonstration because your presence has stirred anomalies in my people. It must be understood. Eli leaned forward. You mean they're feeling things? Good. That's called waking up. She stared at him a long moment. Then, show me more. He grinned. Thought you'd never ask. Back at the palace's archive chamber, Eli pulled a battered earth tablet from his pack. Thousands of human cultural files. He started with a video of a father reuniting with his daughter after war. The child ran into his arms, screaming joy. The Crytheari nobles watching flinched. Some looked away. One trembled. Next, he played a scene from an old romantic film. A man in rain confessing love. The storm soaking them as they kissed. The queen sat still, but her hands gripped the chair. You feel that? Eli whispered. That pull in your chest. That ache. It is irrational. It's human. But we are not. He knelt before her. You were. Once. You buried your hearts to save yourselves. Now I'm asking you to dig them up again. Silence stretched. Then the queen spoke aloud. Her voice, unused, cracked slightly. There is a pressure. In my chest. I do not understand it. Eli's heart pounded. That's called sorrow. And hope. They go together. She touched her collarbone, as if to trace the feeling. I want to know more. Over the next days, he showed them more. Children's laughter. Tragedy. Triumph. Music. Comedy. The Crytheari responded unpredictably. Some fell into silent withdrawal. Others grew curious. A few wept. Valnari came to him one night, staring at his reflection in a polished pillar. I had a dream, she said. Eli blinked. That's great. I felt something in it. Joy. Then fear. When I woke, I missed it. What does it mean? It means you're healing. She looked down. It hurts. Yeah, he said softly. It does. But that means it's real. Eventually, resistance formed. A high-ranking Crytheari noble, Tracehan, accused Eli of cultural sabotage. During a public tribunal, Tracehan declared that the reawakening of emotion would destabilize their world. He introduces infection, Tracehan said. A virus of chaos. He must be removed. Eli stood, not with anger, but quiet strength. You fear what you used to be. That's not survival. That's self-erasure. Queen Alentha rose. Her voice rang out, not in minds, but aloud. We cannot deny what we were, nor what we are becoming. The human has revealed a fracture, and within it possibility. Gasps echoed. She had felt something. Eli approached her later in private. You're changing. I do not understand what I am becoming, she admitted. He smiled. That's the best part. She looked at him for a long time. I have one request. Anything. Make me cry. He swallowed. I'll try. He played her a final piece of music. Not Beethoven. Something older. A lullaby. Soft. Earthly. Wordless. He told her the story behind it. How it was sung by his mother during storms. How he'd clung to her. How her voice was the only light in the dark. As the notes lingered in the air, the queen shuddered. Her fingers twitched. Her eyes welled. One tear fell. Silver. Pure. Real. She gasped, touching her cheek. What is this? That's life, Eli whispered. Welcome back. Eli had never witnessed anything as powerful as that single silver tear. Not the first time he'd seen Earth from orbit. Not the sound of a mother's scream during war. Not even the birth of a child in the middle of a collapsed bunker back during the Martian conflict. That one tear, sliding down an alien queen's cheek in silence, carried the weight of 1,000 years of repression. And it didn't go unnoticed. Within hours, rumors spread across Crythean Prime. Noble houses gathered in secret. Emotional resonance, the thing once forbidden, had resurfaced in their monarch. Half feared collapse. The other half, something worse, change. For days, Alentha did not leave her chamber. Eli waited. Valnari guarded the queen's quarters with a mix of loyalty and dread. They're coming for you, she said quietly one night. I know, Eli said. They will try to erase what you've done. Can they erase a tear? She looked away. They can erase you. The tribunal convened again. This time, it wasn't a debate. It was a trial. Trace Han, now backed by 3 noble houses, accused Eli of psychological sabotage, emotional contamination, cultural terrorism. Eli stood alone in the center of the obsidian hall, beneath judgmental silver stairs. Alentha remained silent, seated above, her face unreadable once again. This human is a disease, Trace Han declared. He has fractured our peace, unleashed chaos. His removal is not punishment, it is preservation. Preservation of what? Eli replied. A civilization that forgot how to laugh. You've caged your hearts for 1,000 years. I just left the door open. You broke protocol. You altered the queen. I reminded her she was alive. Gasps rippled. Trace Han pressed harder. The emotional spread must end. This experiment has failed. Eli waited, watching Alentha. Say something. Anything. She didn't. The sentence was prepared. Exile to a neural cryovault. A permanent freeze. A living death. 2 guards approached. Valnari stepped between them and Eli. No. Step aside, one guard said. She is under direct order, Trace Han barked. But Valnari didn't move. Her hands shook, but her voice did not. He made me feel again. I dreamed again. I cried. You want to erase that? Trace Han raised his hand to strike her. And that's when Alentha rose. Enough. The word was spoken. Not projected. Not telepathic. Spoken. All froze. The queen stepped forward, robes trailing like liquid metal. I have remembered, she said. I remember a garden. I remember music. I remember pain. Trace Han stepped back. Your Majesty, please. I remember what it is to be alive. And I will not go back to forgetting. She looked at Eli. You said you wanted to teach me to cry. You did. But you also taught me to feel. She turned to her people. Let them judge me. If they must erase anything, let them start with their queen. Silence. Then slowly, like a dam cracking, one noble knelt. Then another. And another. Until only Trace Han stood, shaking. You doom us, he spat. No, Alentha replied. I give us a chance to begin again. In the days that followed, the changes were swift. Emotion was no longer banned, but studied, explored, embraced. Crytheari scholars dove into human literature, art, psychology. Valnari began painting, wild, sweeping pieces full of chaos and color. And Alentha? She laughed. Once in private, she told Eli, it feels like lightning in my chest when I smile. It hurts, but I want it again. He grinned. That's how you know it's real. As the Terran envoy prepared to return home, Eli stood on the palace balcony, watching the twin moons rise. Elentha approached. Must you leave? I did what I came to do. You did more than that, she said. You gave us ourselves. He turned. Promise me something. Anything. Never stop feeling. She reached up, brushed a second tear from her cheek. Not even if I could. He leaned down, pressed his forehead to hers. Goodbye, Elentha. Goodbye, Eli of Earth. As the shuttle lifted from Crythean Prime, Eli watched the emotionless world fade behind him. A world no longer frozen, but waking. And somewhere deep inside, he knew. One tear had changed a civilization. One heart had broken a dam. And humanity, messy, wild, emotional humanity, had just reminded the galaxy what it meant to feel.